chill. Nightfall covers me, but you know the plans I'm making still oversee. Could it be the whole of opening wide? A sacred why, a mystery gaping inside. The weekends why, until we dance into the fire. That fatal kiss is all we need. Dance into the fire, to fatal sounds of broken dreams. Dance into the fire. That fatal kiss is all we need. Dance into the fire. Choice for you is the view to waken. Between the shades, assassination standing still. First crystal tears fall as snowflakes on your body. First time in years to drench your skin with lover's rosy stain. A chance to find the phoenix for the flame. A chance to die, but can we dance into the fire? That fatal kiss is all we need. Dance into the fire, to fatal sounds of broken dreams. Dance into the fire. That fatal kiss is all we need. Dance into the fire, when all we see is the view to a kill.
(5329) Vallejo Street. 5329 was the permit number on the burial card for the permit submitted by Spalding Mortuary in Los Angeles for Albert Lee Terry Jr., who supposedly died in December 1971 in Las Vegas. His sister testified on his burial card, and on his burial card it says he has no middle initial. Since he's a junior and his name is Albert Lee, he would have went by Lee. And why would you want to hide that? Because in the murder of Darlene Ferrin, her sister said her best friend was a guy named Lee who used to bring her presents from Tijuana, but nobody ever interviewed that Lee. So you be wanting to get out of town and hide your middle initial. It also says that his place of birth was unknown. This is his sister testifying. And his birth date was the same day as his death date, except a different year. Completely and absolutely phony. 100% phony. That was in 1971. Paul Stine got murdered in 1969 here on Cherry Street, between on Washington, between Maple and Cherry Street. We all know the whole story about how some guy went down Jackson and there were witnesses, but it was always a conflict about the descriptions. There was the struggle. The kids were in the window. One went to go call the police. The others went to the stairway. They had seen a guy lean in. They said it was a fight, and it looked like he was trying to steal the guy's wallet. So his wallet, Paul Stine's wallet, was gone, and the keys to the car were gone. But when the girls got downstairs and got to the street, there was a man in the car, and he was wiping the car down, and it turns out with the shirt of Paul Stine. So he tore the shirt of Paul Stine. That's a person that's in desperation, doesn't have a towel, knows he was in the car, and knows it's now a crime scene. If he planned on robbing a guy, brought a gun, brought gloves, why the hell wouldn't he have brought a towel to wipe it down, knowing that that might be something he needed to do? I've always had the conjecture that the person who murdered Paul Stine was not the Zodiac, because I know who the Zodiac was. It was Charlie, but Charlie was there. He was the first one to get out of the cab on Maple Street. Then the cab goes down the street. I always believe that there was an unscheduled stop because the cab driver had already called in, said he let his fare go, and they had directed him to go to the East Bay. But cab drivers would always pick up somebody if they waved, especially if they said they were heading the same way that they were already going. It's extra money. Guy gets in, shoots the cab driver. I don't believe that it was just a robbery. I don't know why Charlie was up there, right? But as I listened to more testimony, especially about this Leigh Allen guy who lived in Vallejo, who could possibly have known Albert Lee Terry Jr., said that a cab driver was going to get killed. That was this gangster guy that he had leverage over was saying he was talking about that and he didn't believe it until it happened. What if all these people were telling the truth? What would have to have taken place for that to have been the situation where no one is actually lying, but none of the circumstances are in conflict? What if Charlie got set up? What if Charlie got set up by Albert Lee Terry Jr., someone he trusted, to tell him to come up to the Presidio for some strange or unknown reason to meet somebody, right? And then the person commits the murder in order to get Charlie captured because Albert Lee was mad about Ellen and Charlie murdering Darlene Ferrin. I'm starting to believe that Charlie got set up. Officer Folk talked about how he saw a man walking down Jackson Street with a huge receding hairline, right? That looked kind of Welsh, was a certain height. I don't know what Albert Lee Terry Jr. looks like, but some embedded images of an individual that looks like a self-portrait of the person who created it, which was Albert Lee Terry Jr., has this amazingly large receded hairline. What if that murderer was Albert Lee Terry Jr.? And Charlie just wasn't close enough to know that that was him. Or maybe he knew it was him after the description came out, but even the description doesn't sound so much like this other guy. What if there was three guys? What if Albert Lee set up Charlie? There was a murderer, but Albert Lee was up there. Charlie's trying to escape. One way he goes through the golf course, which I have evidence of because they drew a map on the letter that came with the shirt in code to inform the rest of the group as to what happened that night. But this guy on Jackson Street, that's the question I have, right? So as you're looking at this map of Washington Street, Maple, and Cherry, I want you to see over here as we go down Jackson Street and we come up 5329 Vallejo Street. You see that right there? Spalding Mortuary is my family's mortuary. Their address isn't 5329. There's nothing in Los Angeles 5329 that would relate to the Zodiac murders. There's no reason for a Los Angeles mortuary to handle a death in Las Vegas and a burial up in Northern California in the Vallejo area, especially for a person whose death card has nothing but lies on it. His sister doesn't know where he was born. She doesn't know that he has a middle name. And we know it's him because we got his father's death card. They have the same crypt. It's a family crypt. And his father's death card is absolutely perfect. And it was only 2 years before his. So it's all bullshit. What if they use 5329 to designate where Albert Lee was hiding or had parked his car that night of the murder of Paul Stine? A lot of people speculated, like, how did he get out of there? That he must have had a car. And since these people seem to always want to hide things in plain sight, I'm starting to believe that Leigh Allen was telling the truth, that the crook that he was with was telling the truth, that they knew Albert Lee. They were all bisexual. Vallejo is a small town. You got to have only a few bars that are gay, right? I'm sure these guys knew each other. They all liked Darlene Ferrin. A lot of people probably knew who the Zodiac was now that I'm starting to look at all the evidence that's available. They supported him as some kind of revolutionary group. I think Darlene was going to tell. I got a feeling that people that have been researching this case were right. There was a car. Charlie didn't have access to the car because he didn't know what was going down. That's why he tore the shirt and ran. He was out all night, 4 hours trying to get back to his house on Grove Avenue. He had to go all the way to the beach, all the way through the golf course, down to the beach, around the park, down low, and back. So he was happy to get home. But the guy that was walking down Jackson, everybody says he must have had a car. If you go down Jackson, from Cherry Street, right here, you're going down Jackson, you come to the end of the park, right here on Lion Street, you make a left, you come to 5329 Vallejo Street. I just don't think that's a coincidence. I think Albert Lee Terry Jr. set up Charles Arthur Letch to get caught and either murdered Paul Stine, not specifically him, but a cab driver because they knew Charlie would come up with a cab, or he had somebody do it and he was there to watch. Got in his car and drove off from the scene. That's my theory. And I believe it's true. Washington Street and Cherry Street to where I believe the car was left. 5329 Vallejo Street in San Francisco was a 26-minute walk. I believe that's how the killer got from the murder of Paul Stine to his car. And I believe that Albert Lee Terry Jr. had something to do with it. And that's why they used the number 5329 on his fake-ass burial death card. Because these ignorant people always like to talk about what they did and hide it in plain sight.